Now sir, how about if the question is to compute the location of the maximum deflection? Pwede bang gamitin yung virtual work? Now, ito yung usually hindi din ni-discuss sa klase. Kung paano gagamitin yung virtual work to compute the maximum deflection. However, dito we will explore that just for fun. So again, we already have our answer for this one, which is 2.876 meters. Now, how can we obtain this one using virtual work? Ito yung gagawin natin. Again, we will first assume where the location of the maximum deflection will be. And so, in our discussion sa double integration, we have made it clear na somewhere dito yung maximum deflection. Now, that's because masyadong malaki yung load na to compared sa concentrated load dito. And so, our beam will deflect this way. And so, let's establish this cut. And then, let's label this distance from the point of origin patungo dito as x. Now, itong x will be the location of our maximum deflection. Now, if this is x, itong distance na to, the remaining distance dito, will become 6 minus x. So, ito, magiging 6 minus x. And so, essentially, kung ano yung gagawin natin sa real beam, yan din yung gagawin natin dito. So, we will also make a cut dito, and then we will label this as x. And then, itong distance na to will become 6 minus x. Yan. Now, let's try to construct our table. Again, let's review the concept na kung saan 0 yung slope, dyan magmamax yung deflection natin. And so, what we are trying to compute here is the location at which the slope is 0. And so what we will do is we will apply a unit moment dito sa virtual system natin. Let's just say dito, 1 kNm. Now we are applying this here because we still don't know the location of x at which the slope will be 0. And so what we will essentially do is we will sum up these integrals for the slope. And then we will set the slope to 0 so that we can solve for x at which the deflection will be maximum. Now, since our segment will already become 3 parts, one for this one, another one for this, and another one for this, we will have 3 segments. And so, let's just label the point of maximum deflection as D, this one, and also this one. Now, kayo na yung bahala kung ano yung origins na gagamitin nyo, as long as you will arrive with the correct answer. So, for segment AD, I will just consider from the left na origin. And so, I will write here AD. And then for segment BD, I will just consider from the right. So I will write it as BD. And then for segment BC, I will also consider from the right. So this will be CB. And then the limits for this one will become, for segment AD, it will be from 0 to x. And then for BD, it will be 0 up to 6 minus x. And then for CB, it will still be from 0 to 2. Again, yung values dito would be the length of your segment. Now again, we are applying a unit moment dito because we are trying to solve for the slope. Isiset natin yan to 0 later. Now let's first solve our reactions. However, let's just use the shortcut formula. When we have a counterclockwise load dito, our reactions should be opposite in direction and should induce a rotation that's opposite to your given loading. Now, since this is clockwise, the reaction of this one will be counterclockwise kasi iikot yan dyan, saka dito, which is counterclockwise. And then the value of this one will be 1 over L, which is 1 over 6. Again, yung L dito is yung distance between the two supports. And then ito rin will be 1 over 6. Now let's first write our M for the first segment AD. Now that will be 135 times x, summing up moments at this point, and then minus 50x squared over 2. Now, shortcut na lang to. Galing lang din yan sa resultant multiplied by the moment arm. Again, the resultant is 50x, and then this is our moment arm, which is x over 2. Now, sir, how about our MV? Yung MV natin, magiging negative 1 over 6 multiplied by x if we sum up moments at this point. So, negative 1 over 6 times x. Now, sir, how about for BD, sir? Now, for BD, my origin is from B, patungo sa D. And so, I will consider from the right. So, magiging opposite na yung convention natin. Again, this will be our starting point. And then, we will end here. Now, this will be our x. Again, this x is different from your limit. Because ito yung x in terms sa origin natin na moment equation. Now, again, since we are considering from the right, we will consider all loads to the right. And so, itong 45, we will include this in our equation. Now, we will take moments about this cut. And this distance is essentially 2. And so, yung moment ng 45 kN will be multiplied by the moment arm, which is 2 plus x. And then, since clockwise yan, and then nasa right ng moment center mo, it will become negative. And so, this will be negative 45 times 2 plus x. And then, this load. Itong load na to will cause a counterclockwise rotation about this point. However, since nasa right yan, magiging opposite yung convention natin. And so, it will be plus 210 multiplied by x. Now, you might ask, bakit hindi 6 minus x yung ginagamit mo, sir? Again, what we are forming here is the moment equation in terms of x according to our origin. Itong 6 minus x is simply just the limit. Hindi yan yung actual distance. And so that's why we are still considering a variable of x. And then, after nito is yung distributed load. Now, yung distributed load will have a resultant of 50 times x. And then, the moment arm will be x over 2. Now, that will cause a clockwise rotation about the moment center. And so, it will be negative. So, negative 50x times the moment arm, which is x over 2. So, yan. Now, sir, how about our MV, sir? For our MV, walang loads dito. To the right ng origin natin. And so, we won't include that one. Dito lang tayo magsa-start. And then, we will end right at the cut. So, this will be our X. Again, this X is for the moment equation. It's different from this one. Now, again, we are considering from the right. And so, let's start with BY. Now, that will cause a counterclockwise rotation about this point. But since nasa right yan, that will be positive. So, this will be 1 over 6 multiplied by x. Now, I hope it's clear. And then lastly, for CB, we are essentially considering this segment. And so, it will be the same kanina. This will be negative 45 times x. Kasi ito na yung origin natin up to the cut. And then for MV, it's simply 0. Because at this segment, wala tayong loadings. And so, if this is our origin, magiging 0 lang din. Now, let's just label this one as our x1 for AD, ito 2 and 3, and this will be x2, this will be x3. This is x1, x2, and x3. Para hindi na kayo malito. And so now, we will integrate the following expressions in terms of the variable. Now, for the first one, let's consider segment AD. Now, that will be 1 over EI, integral from 0 to x, and then 135x minus, gagawin na lang natin tong 25x squared, multiplied by MV, which is negative 1 over 6 times x. Yan. And then let's write the equation for segment BD. It will become 1 over EI and then integral from 0 to 6 minus x. Kasi yan yung limit natin. 6 minus x and then negative 45 times 2 plus x and then plus 210x minus 25x squared. We already simplified this one. Now, ito yung m natin. And then our MV is this one. So, magiging 1 over 6 times x. And then dx. Now, this expression will just become 0 because negative 45x times 0 is 0. So, we'll not include that one na lang. Now, let's focus on this one. Dito ko na lang ilalagay. Let's try to expand this expression so that it will be easy to integrate. Now, that will be 1 over EI and then integral from 0 to x and then distribute natin, magiging 135x times x will become x squared. And then since meron tong negative, this will be negative. And then over 6. And then let's distribute this one. Negative times negative, magiging positive. And then x squared times x, magiging x cubed. And so this will be plus 25x cubed over 6. Ito na yung expression that we will integrate. And then dx. Now integrating this one, we will get the following expression. 1 over EI times negative 135x plus 1 tayo dito, magiging cube. And then, yung denominator, magiging 6 times this one. So, 3. And then, plus 25x plus 1 tayo dito, magiging 4. And then, over 6 multiplied by this one. Ito na yung integral natin. And then, the limit is from 0 to x. Now, what this essentially means is we will subtract the upper limit and the lower limit. Again, what will happen is this one. 1 over EI. First, we will substitute x for this expression and then substitute it by 0. And then we will get the difference of both those expressions. Now first, let's substitute x. Wala lang din mangyayari kasi yung variable natin dito is x. If papalitan natin ng x, we will retain the same equation. So, magiging negative 135x cubed over 6 times 3 will become 18. And then plus 25 x to the 4th over 24. And then we will subtract from this equation the result when we will substitute 0 to this equation. Again, this is the upper limit and this is the lower limit. And so minus, substitute tayo ng 0 dito, magiging negative 135 0 cubed over 18 plus 25 0 to the 4th over 24. And so, mawawala lang yung expression na to. Kasi we are multiplying by 0. And so, ito na lang yung matitira. Now, that will be 1 over EI and then negative 135x cubed over 18 plus 25x to the 4th over 24. Now, again, this is the reason kung bakit ideal na 0 to a certain limit yung limits na gagamitin mo. Kasi para wala ka ng second expression for the subtraction. Now, again, ito yung first simplification natin. Next, let's try to expand this one and then integrate. And then next is to apply the limits. And so ito na yung mangyayari. First, expand tayo. Magiging 1 over ei, integral from 0 to 6 minus x. And then distribute natin yan, isa-isa. Negative 45 times 1 over 6, magiging negative 45 over 6. And then, let's multiply these expressions. 2 plus x times x. So, 2 plus x times x. And then next, let's distribute this expression. So, magiging 210x times 1 over 6x, magiging 210 over 6 times x squared. And then minus, distribute natin to, 25x squared times x, magiging 25x cubed, and then divided by 6. So, 25x cubed over 6. Now again, to integrate much faster, let's also distribute this one. Now, copy lang natin to. Let's distribute this. Magiging 2x plus x squared. Again, papalitan ko na lang to. 2x plus x squared. So, yan. And then, I will also distribute this one. Para yung solution ko is magiging one-liner na lang. Hindi na mahirap i-integrate. So, copy lang natin to. Distributing this one, magiging negative 45 over 6 times 2x. And then, distributing this one, magiging negative 45 over 6 times x squared. And so, ito na yung expression that we will integrate. Now, itong 45 saka 2, i-join ko na lang. Magiging 90. And then, ito, mawawala. Now, you can join the like terms to simplify your solutions. And so, let's copy this one. And then, i-join natin to. Now, negative 45 over 6 plus 210 over 6 will become 27.5. And so, we can change this one. Magiging 27.5 x squared. Yan. And so now, let's integrate this expression. Magiging 1 over ei multiplied by negative 90 over 6 plus 1 tayo dito, magiging x squared. And then over, multiply natin to sa denominator. So, 6 times 2. And then plus 27.5x plus 1 tayo dito, magiging cube. And then over 3. And then minus 25x plus 1 tayo dito, magiging 4. And then over 6 times 4. And then we will apply the limits, which starts at 0 and then ends at 6 minus x. Now again, itong 0, we will not write this one anymore because if we will substitute 0 dito sa x values, mawawala lang din. And so we will only apply the upper limit, which is 6 minus x. Again, this is the reason why we are setting our lower limit always to 0. And so let's continue with this one. This will become 1 over ei and then negative 90 times 6 minus x. Again, papalitan natin lahat ng x with this one. And then squared over 6 times 2, which is 12. And then plus 27.5 times 6 minus x. And then cube divided by 3. And then minus 24, 6 minus x to the 4th divided by 24. And so ito na yung integrated form na ginamitan na natin ng 6 minus x. So what we will do here is we will add both of these expressions. And then let's solve for x, at which the slope will be 0. Because again, we are computing for the slope. The slope at this exact point where the deflection will be maximum. But we know na yung slope dyan is 0. And so we will add these expressions and see kung saan yan magzi-0. So ito yung gagawin natin. Itong 1 over ei, pwede mo na yung tanggalin. Because yung slope is essentially 0 over ei. Now lahat yan magka-cancel. Again, bakit 0 to? Because we are setting the slope to 0 to solve for x at which the deflection is maximum. Now let's just type this sa calculators natin. Ito. And then ito. And then equal yan to 0. So negative 135 x cubed over 18 plus 25 x to the 4th over 24 minus 90 times 6 minus x squared over 12 plus 27.5 times 6 minus x cubed over 3 minus itong 24 magka-cancel. And so hindi na natin yan isusulat kasi medyo wala ng space. So this will be 6 minus x to the power of 4 and then over, yan na lang. 6 minus x to the 4th is equal to 0. Press shift solve. Makukuha mo na yung value of x. Now, medyo merong mali. Kasi dapat yung makukuha natin is x equals 2.876. Now, let's just review our solutions. Ito pala. Yung 24, yung 25 naging 24. So, this will be 25. And so, this will also be 25. So, hindi yun magka-cancel kanina. Sorry. So, this is also 25. Again, let's resolve. this will be minus 25 times 6 minus x to the fourth over 24. Now, medyo hindi na papasok sa calculators natin. And so what we will do is we will store the values of this one into different variables para one character na lang. So ito, I will store this sa A and then ito sa B. Kahit yung dalawang yan lang, papasok na yan sa calculator mo. And so again, papalitan natin to ng 25. Again, yung negative 135 over 18 is to store ko sa A. So yan. And then, yung 25 over 24 is to store ko sa B. So, yan. So, instead of typing 135 over 18, I will just type A times x cubed. And then, plus B times x to the fourth. Ito na yan. And then, let's continue. Minus 90 times 6 minus x squared over 12. And then, plus 27.5, 6 minus x cubed over 3. And then, minus 25 over 24. But essentially, the same lang yan dito sa B. But ito na lang yung isusulat ko. And then, 6 minus x to the power of 4. And then, set natin yan to 0. Press shift solve. Ito na yung makukuha natin. Which is the same answer, exact talaga, doon sa nakuha natin sa area moment, saka double integration, and the rest of our methods. And so, this is the way to compute for the maximum deflection, I mean, the location of the maximum deflection, using the virtual work method. And then to compute for the maximum deflection, you will simply change this applied moment here into a unit concentrated load. So ito, magiging concentrated load na, which will be located dito. Now, yung M natin, hindi magbabago. Kasi the same lang yan. Dito lang may magbabago sa MV. Kasi for the last question, which is the maximum deflection, we will have to apply itong unit concentrated load. Again, this is 1 kN. And so now, we will have to solve for AY saka BY. Now, we can take moments about B para makuha natin yung AY. And so, our AY will become AY times 6. Again, let's just remove this one. Let's assume upward. And then, minus 1 times 6 minus x. Again, we already have our x, which is yung nakuha natin na 2.876 meters. And then, set natin to 0. Now, I'll just store this dito sa C. So, lalagay ko dito at C. So, AY times 6 minus 1 times 6 minus x, which is stored sa C, set natin to 0. And so, that will be this value. Now, isusulat ko na lang yung decimal, 0.52. However, I will just store this dito sa D. Para yung gagamitin ko later is yung exact value talaga. So, this will be D. And then, if this is 0.52, this is 1 minus AY. Kasi yan lang yung vertical forces natin. Again, we have a concentrated load na downward. And so, this is just the result of summing up forces vertical, in which AY plus BY is equal to 1. And so, BY is equal to 1 minus AY. Yan lang. And then, yung BY, isustore ko sa E. So, magiging 1 minus AY, which is nandito sa D. So, yan. Ito yung isustore ko sa E, which is the reaction dito sa BY. So, ito na yan. Again, andito to sa E. Now, yung MV ko will become AY times X. Now, again, yung AY ko nakastore sa D. And so, isusulat ko na lang as D times X. Again, this is AY, para hindi malito. And then, for segment BD, I will consider from the right. Kasi from the right tayo dito. Segment B to D. Now, from the right, I will only include this one, itong BY, kasi wala nang loads dito. And so, yung MV ko will become BY, which is stored sa E, multiplied by X from this origin, patungo dito. Now again, positive to because I'm considering from the right. This will cause a counterclockwise movement about the moment center. And so, ito na yung i-prepare ko. Now, for segment AD, ito yung mangyayari. Integral from 0 to X. Again, yung X is stored dito sa C. So, from 0 to C. Yan. And then, 135X, which is this one, minus, palitan na lang natin, 25x squared. And then multiplied by d times x, in which yung d is essentially itong AY, but nakastore dito, so d times x. Ito lang yung MV natin. Press equals, ito yung makukuha mo, 334.65. And so, isusulat natin, 334.6549764. And then, for the next one, ito yung itatype natin. So, integral from 0 to, again, 6 minus x, which is 6 minus c. And then, negative 45 times 2 plus x plus 210 times x minus 25x squared. Ito yung m natin. And then, our MV will be this expression, E times X. Because again, yung BY nakastore sa E. So, E times X. Press equals, ito yung makukuha mo, 307.996, 9274. Now, if we add both of these, ito na yan, 334.6549764 plus 307.9969274 will become 642.65, which is our answer doon sa double integration, area moment, and the previous methods. Now, that's how you can verify. So again, yung Y max natin, or the maximum deflection, is 642.65 kNm cubed over EI. Now again, as you can notice, medyo mahaba talaga yung solution natin. Kasi itong virtual work method is not ideal for beams na merong maraming spans. And it's also not ideal to compute for the location of the maximum deflection. What's better is to use the conjugate beam method or the double integration method if ganito yung question. Now, yung advantage ng virtual work method is kung isa lang yung segment mo. Yan talaga yung pinaka-concept dyan. However, itong virtual work is applied kasi doon sa truss frames. Kaya dapat alam mo yung ins and outs nito. Kasi you can't form the moment equation sa frames if you haven't mastered this method.